The first thing I saw was the barrel of a gun pointed at my dog. Bandit stood firm on the porch, ears up, chest forward. He didn't bark, didn't flinch, just locked eyes with the cop like he knew what that weapon meant. Me? I froze. Groceries hit the ground. Eggs exploded across the gravel. Behind the cruiser, Karen stood there with her damn arms folded, like she'd just won the Super Bowl. He's sicking that thing on people. Do something. The cop's hand was trembling. Sir, control your dog. I'm giving you 5 seconds. 5 seconds, that's all I had to stop them from putting a bullet through the only living soul who never turned on me. My voice cracked. Bandit, down. He obeyed like a soldier, eased down to the deck, head low, tail still. But his eyes never left that badge. Karen gasped, not in fear, disgust. He's trained it, she snapped. That's not a pet, that's a weapon. Now, let me back up. This wasn't about a dog. It never was. See, I live in a neighborhood where people care more about the length of your grass than the state of your heart. I'd kept to myself since my wife passed, didn't throw parties, didn't wave flags, didn't attend homeowner association meetings, and that was the real crime around here. Karen runs the show. Literally, she's the president of the homeowner association, and she treats this street like it's her own kingdom. Her rules, her favorites, her version of peace and order. And me, I didn't play along. They couldn't find a reason to find me, so they found a reason to fear me. Bandit. Last week, a letter showed up. Anonymous, of course. Claimed my dog was aggressive toward children, that he lunged at a jogger. Funny thing is, Bandit never leaves the porch, never even crosses the walkway unless I say so. But logic never mattered to people like Karen. Then came the citations. Not official, not from the county, just HOA violations typed up in bold red, taped to my fence post. 3 of them, 1 per day. Friday, they escalated. The HOA filed an emergency claim to have my property restricted due to a dangerous animal. Next thing I knew, Bandit and I were both banned from the very house I built with my own hands 20 years ago. That's why I came back early today. I couldn't sleep. Couldn't sit in that cheap motel and let someone else guard my life. Bandit was at the kennel. I signed him out at 7 a.m. We got home by 8. And now, by 8:15, I was staring down the barrel of a police-issued Glock. You ever watch a man lose everything in his own front yard? I've seen war, lost friends in uniform, but nothing punches you in the chest like a stranger telling you your dog doesn't have the right to exist. You have to leave, the officer said. This isn't negotiable. I looked at Bandit. He looked at me. Sir, if you don't comply, we'll take the dog. Karen was smiling now, not even trying to hide it. So I grabbed Bandit's leash, slowly, and we backed off that porch like we were walking out of a burning house. I didn't say a word, not yet, because I needed to know who gave her the match. And if you're watching Karenology, you know, it's never just a misunderstanding. Funny thing is, they thought that morning was the end of my story. But it was just the end of my silence. We didn't talk on the ride back to the motel. Not that Bandit could talk, but if he could, he wouldn't have said a word either. He just sat there in the passenger seat, eyes fixed on the road ahead, like he was holding it together for both of us. Me? I was gripping the wheel so tight I thought I'd snap it. I pulled into the lot and parked at the far end, away from the lobby, away from the stairs. Bandit hopped down, trotted beside me without a sound. We made it to the room, number 206, second floor, leaky AC, and a TV that only showed game shows from the 90s. Home sweet hell. I closed the blinds, took off my boots, and sat on the edge of the bed. Bandit laid his head on my foot. That dog had more dignity and silence than most people have with a microphone. That's when the wave hit me. I'd built that house, every brick, every beam, put up the fence myself, dug the post holes in summer heat with no shade, no help. My wife had picked the paint for the shutters, dark green like pine needles. She wanted it to look like it grew out of the trees. I'd buried her in that town, and now I couldn't even visit my own porch without a gun in my face. You ever feel like your life got stolen while you were still alive? Here's what I knew. The homeowner association had gone too far, but they were smart. They didn't come after me directly. They came through the dog, through fear. They knew nobody wants to question a woman screaming, aggressive animal. And they knew once they had that narrative, the police would fall in line. But here's what they didn't know. Bandit wore a GPS collar. Not some fancy thing from a catalog, just a hand-me-down tracking device my niece gave me after her golden retriever passed. It kept logs of his movements, where he'd been, when he'd moved, how much he barked. I'd set it up mostly for fun, but now, it might be the only thing keeping him alive. So I hooked up my laptop and downloaded the data. The day they claimed he lunged at a child, Bandit hadn't moved more than 12 feet from the porch. And the time of the supposed incident, he was inside the house. Inside. That's not just a lie, that's premeditated. I leaned back, heart pounding. I wasn't just fighting Karen anymore. I was fighting a coordinated smear. Let me ask you something. You ever have proof someone lied about you and still wonder if anyone would believe it? Because truth isn't loud. It doesn't scream. It doesn't carry a clipboard or wear a smug grin. Truth waits in the corner while lies work the room. I needed more. So I made a call, not to a lawyer, not yet. I called Olivia. She moved in 2 months ago, just down the block. New face, new voice, didn't attend the homeowner association meetings. We'd exchanged nods, that was it. But I'd seen her pull up one morning in a vet's truck, not military, animal hospital. She picked up on the second ring. Hey, it's Nick. You don't really know me, but I think my dog's life depends on you. Long pause. What happened? I told her, every word, didn't soften it. Another pause. Then she said something that changed everything. You're not the first. Turns out, Karen's been on a quiet crusade. Last year, a guy named Dell lived across from the park. His terrier got labeled a nuisance. Same playbook. HOA letters, then a ban, then threats. He moved out 6 weeks later. House went up for sale. Bought by a cousin of one of the HOA board members. Funny, huh? I sat in silence. Olivia didn't. Your dog's not aggressive, she said, and I can prove it. I've got a behavioral sensor collar, tracks barking, posture, even cortisol spikes. I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks, momentum. Can you install it? I'm outside your motel. She walked in 5 minutes later, jeans, vet shirt, laptop bag over her shoulder. Bandit sniffed her, tail slow, then gave one little wag. That was his way of saying, you'll do. She fit the collar gently, like she was dressing a wound. Then she turned to me. You want to beat them, Nick? Stop being defensive. Start being dangerous. I looked at Bandit. He looked back like he'd been waiting for me to remember who I was. And that's when I made a decision. Tomorrow morning, we go back, but not like last time. Next time, we bring the truth in our teeth. And we bite first. Sun wasn't even up when we rolled back into the neighborhood. I cut the headlights 3 blocks away, coasted into my own street like I was casing a joint. The irony wasn't lost on me, sneaking up to a house I paid off in '9 in a truck I built myself, with a dog who'd never bitten a soul. But that's how it works when someone paints you as the problem. I parked behind the church, far enough to be unseen, close enough to run. Olivia followed in her car, lights off, windows down. She handed me the tablet with Bandit's vitals. Overnight, 0 bark spikes, 0 movement off property, 0 aggression. Just numbers, clean cold truth. We cut through backyards. Bandit stayed low, ears flat, tail neutral. Not a sound. That dog could have passed basic training. Honestly, he probably had more discipline than I did that morning. When we got to the edge of my property, I stopped short. Floodlights were up. Karen had installed 4 of them, angled like prison yard beams, pointing right at my porch. And on the lawn, a new sign. No trespassing, dangerous dog, on premises, HOA enforcement in effect. That last line lit something inside me. They weren't just evicting me, they were rewriting who I was. Olivia whispered, "Security cam, there, and there." She pointed with her chin. "Blind spots are the back fence and the tool shed." "You been casing my house, Olivia?" She smirked. "Girls gotta be prepared." We slipped in through the side gate. It wasn't locked. Rookie mistake. Bandit walked right up to the porch, sat down like he never left. Olivia stepped behind him, adjusted the collar, synced the feed. "We good?" I asked. She checked the tablet. Streaming live, data logging, full vitals. And that's when it happened. A voice behind us. "You've got 5 seconds to get off that porch." We turned, flashlight in the face, security guard, not a cop, private, new uniform, polished boots. HOA had hired muscle. "You're violating a direct order from the association," he barked. "This is an active animal threat zone." I laughed. Couldn't help it. "He's sitting. You see that? He's literally sitting." The guy raised his radio. "Requesting escalation. Subject is non-compliant." Olivia stepped forward, calm, clear. "We're veterinary professionals conducting behavior logging under federal animal welfare statutes. You interfere, that's obstruction." The guard froze, didn't know whether to shout or salute. His hand lowered, radio still in the air. "We'll be done in 5 minutes," she added. "You can write your little report after." He backed off, not because we scared him, because he didn't want to be the guy who made the national news choking out a vet and a leashed shepherd. We finished the scan, walked off the property like we were leaving church. Back in the car, Olivia exhaled. That bought us time. Not much, but enough. Enough for what? She tapped her phone. "See, Karen's smart, but she forgot one thing. People talk, especially the ones she used. That delivery guy who said Bandit attacked him, he's my cousin." My jaw tightened. "And he's ready to talk." Turns out, Karen paid him. Not cash, favor trade. She got a parking fine waved through one of her HOA friends in the city office. In return, he filed a complaint that Bandit lunged at him when he brought a package. Never happened. He wasn't even on the route that day. "I've got his text thread. He's willing to go on record." That's when I felt it shift. Not just momentum, leverage. You ever stand at the bottom of a mountain, realize it's not a wall, it's a ramp? Olivia smiled. "We flip this right. We don't just clear your name. We burn the whole damn playbook." I looked out the windshield at the street I used to call home, where they smiled to your face and filed reports behind your back, where kindness came with a clipboard and a timer. "Let's do it then," I said. "Let's make her regret ever stepping on my porch." And just like that, the hunt began. Not for revenge, for restoration, for truth with teeth. The next morning, I didn't shave. I didn't comb my hair. I didn't put on my usual work jacket. I wanted to walk into that HOA meeting looking like exactly what they thought I was. A problem, but the kind of problem that doesn't just go away when you ignore it. The monthly homeowner association meeting was held at the clubhouse, one of those fake colonial buildings with too much white trim and folding chairs stacked in the back. Normally, maybe a dozen people showed. This time, packed. Guess word travels fast when someone calls the cops on a dog and it makes the town group chat. Karen stood at the front in a teal blouse and her "I care about the community" face. She was already in performance mode. You could tell by the way her hands kept gesturing in slow, deliberate arcs, like a preacher or a politician. I didn't wait. I stepped right up to the center aisle. Bandit stayed outside. He didn't need to be here. This wasn't his fight anymore. "I've got a few things to say," I said, loud, calm, no shaking. Karen's smile tightened. "Mr. Dawson, this isn't an open floor segment." "Good," I said. "Then you can't cut me off." A couple of heads turned. One guy chuckled. Karen didn't. I reached into my jacket and pulled out a flash drive. This has GPS logs, vitals, and behavior records from a certified vet's monitor. All of it shows my dog, Bandit, never left the porch during any of the alleged incidents. Not once. No one moved. And here, I held up a phone, is a recording from the man who filed the delivery complaint. He admits he lied because he was offered a favor by a member of this board, a favor that bypassed a parking violation in exchange for a false report. You could feel the air go out of the room. Karen stepped forward. "That's unsubstantiated hearsay, and I didn't let her finish. I have the text messages and witnesses who saw my belongings being moved into the garage during the day my dog was kenneled. Not out. In." Karen looked to her right. One of the board members, gray suit, mustache, nervous leg bounce, suddenly found something fascinating on the carpet. "I have a vet who will testify under oath that my dog shows no signs of aggression, ever. And I have security footage from a neighbor's backyard cam showing your hired guard trespassing behind my shed." Karen tried to pivot. "Nick, if you're upset, we can schedule a mediation through..." I'm not here for mediation. I'm here to tell you this. You don't own me. You don't own my history. And you damn sure don't get to paint me as a threat to prop up your little kingdom. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. This neighborhood used to mean something. It was a place where we helped each other move furniture, where nobody had to measure their grass, where my wife planted those pine roses by the mailbox. I paused. She died 6 years ago, and you've been trying to erase her ever since. Silence. I want this entire board investigated, every decision logged, every violation matched to property sales, every favor traced back. Because this isn't about fences, it's about power, and you've been abusing it. Karen tried to speak again, but this time, someone else stood up. It was Olivia. She held up the tablet. I've submitted a full digital report to the State Veterinary Licensing Board and Animal Services Department. Copies go to the county and, if necessary, the press. And then it happened. One of the board members stood up, nervously. I didn't know she was going this far, he said. I thought we were just flagging violations. I didn't agree to this. Karen's face drained. Terry, sit down. But Terry didn't. He looked around, at the neighbors, at the cameras, because, yeah, people were recording now. Of course they were. I'm stepping down, he said, effective immediately. And with that, the illusion cracked. Karen's voice turned shrill. She tried to regain the floor, claiming bias, slander, process, but it didn't matter. Because what I said next wasn't for her. It was for the room. If you want your neighborhood back, now's the time to stand up. Not tomorrow, now. And that's when I saw it. One by one, people started standing, quiet at first, then louder. A neighbor from 2 doors down, a woman I hadn't seen since my wife's funeral, the kid who mows lawns on weekends, the couple with the red shutters. They weren't yelling, they weren't waving signs, but they stood. And that broke her. That was the moment Karen realized she'd finally lost control. And yet, I knew this wasn't over. Because a snake doesn't die the first time you cut it. It thrashes. And it always has one last bite. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of nerves, not because of fear. I didn't sleep because I was waiting for what I knew would come. Retaliation. You think people like Karen just fold? You think they walk away after losing control in public? No, they regroup, they dig deeper, they look for another angle, and they make it personal. It came at 5:42 a.m. Loud knock, repetitive, sharp. Bandit was up before I was, one bark, then silence. I opened the door to find 2 officers, real ones this time, County Sheriff's Department, not HOA muscle. Mr. Dawson, we need to ask you some questions. No threats, no cuffs, but I could already feel the heat rising behind my ears. About what? Complaint of animal cruelty. I blinked, actually laughed. You're kidding. They weren't. We received a call that you were fitting your dog with unauthorized medical equipment, devices causing distress or pain. I stepped back, gestured toward Bandit, who was sitting calmly in the kitchen doorway like he was waiting for coffee. You want to check him for distress? Be my guest. They did. One officer crouched, checked the collar, even ran his hand along Bandit's spine. Bandit didn't move, didn't flinch. Seems fine to me, he muttered. Yeah, I said. You've been used. They took statements, copied Olivia's records, left with a half-hearted apology and a subtle warning. Don't escalate things, Mr. Dawson. Keep it civil. Keep it civil. That phrase stuck to me like a thorn. Because this wasn't civil. This was targeted, strategic, calculated. I called Olivia. She answered on the first ring. You okay? Yeah, I said. They tried to flip the script, said we were harming Bandit. She cursed under her breath. That's not even creative. What else can she do? Plenty, Olivia said. If Karen's desperate, she'll stop playing by her own rules. She was right, because 3 hours later, I got served. Temporary restraining order, filed by Karen against me, claiming I'd made threats, that I was stalking her, that I'd banged on her door at night, that Bandit had been loose and aggressive. It was all lies. But it didn't matter. The paper was official. The court date was set. And until then, I was barred from entering the street where my house sat. You ever get told you can't step foot on your own dirt? I sat in my truck for half an hour, didn't start it, didn't move, just stared at that piece of paper like it was a death certificate with my name on it. Bandit nudged my arm. Low whine, he felt it too. I couldn't go back home, couldn't even drive down the block. Karen had locked me out of my own life again, and this time, legally. And still, she wasn't done. That night, Olivia texted me one line. Check the neighborhood forum, now. I opened the app, took a breath, scrolled. And there it was, a new post. PSA, dangerous individual known to local authorities. Exhibits paranoid behavior, history of aggression, police involved, be cautious. No name, but a blurry photo of me walking Bandit. The comments were worse. People asking if I'd been arrested, if Bandit had attacked someone, if I was mentally unstable. And some of them defended me, said it didn't sound right, that I was quiet, respectful, a veteran. But they were drowned out. Lies move faster than the truth, and louder. By midnight, I was a local threat, a rumor, a red flag in the system. And the worst part? It was working. I'd thought the hearing would be my turning point, that people standing in that room meant something. But Karen didn't need to win the meeting. She just needed to win the aftermath. And I was losing. You ever feel your world narrowing by the hour? I turned off the phone, sat on the motel bed. Bandit laid beside me. I scratched behind his ear. He leaned into my hand. We're not running, boy, I said, but we're not walking in circles either. I opened my laptop, and I started writing. Not a post, not a rant. A report. Timeline, documents, screenshots, witness names, all of it. I built a file, clean, sharp, precise. Because if Karen wanted war through paperwork, she'd get it. But not from a barking man, from one who learned to bite back in silence. It took me 2 days to finish the file. 2 days of motel coffee, no sleep, and the kind of tunnel vision that only shows up when you're out of moves. But when it was done, it wasn't just a document, it was a weapon. I printed it, not emailed, not uploaded. I wanted to feel the weight of it in my hands. 64 pages of receipts, timestamps, photos, expert reports, and sworn statements. All laid out like a map of every lie Karen ever told. And on the third morning, I delivered it in person. County office, Department of Code Compliance. The woman at the front desk gave me that look like I was about to scream about potholes, until I slid the file across the counter and said, calm as a loaded gun. This is a coordinated abuse of zoning, animal control, and homeowner regulations. There's conflict of interest, witness intimidation, and possible fraud. She blinked, took the folder, flipped the cover, stopped, and called someone. Within 20 minutes, I was sitting across from a man in a brown tie who looked like he hated surprises but loved process. He didn't smile, didn't blink much, but he read every page. When he looked up, he asked one question. Can your veterinarian verify this timeline in writing? Already has, I said. He nodded, stood. Mr. Dawson, we'll be in touch. It wasn't a victory, not yet, but it was movement, and movement at that point felt like breathing again. I stepped outside, pulled in a full lung of cold air. Bandit was waiting in the truck, tail thumped once, twice. We drove without music, just the road. And that's when I saw it, a sign. Literally. Taped to a telephone pole at the entrance of the neighborhood. Warning, aggressive animal, still present, community safety at risk. Underneath it, someone had scribbled in red marker, "You're next." I tore it down, crumpled it, stuck it in the glove box. Not because I needed evidence, because I needed the reminder. This wasn't about me anymore. It was about fear, manufactured fear. Fear used to control, to isolate, to turn neighbors into enforcers. And Karen was the conductor. Let me ask you something. You ever see a mob form and realize half of them don't even know why they're angry? That night, I met Olivia at the vet clinic. She'd cleared the back room, dimmed the lights. We sat with Bandit between us. She checked his collar data, all green. Then she asked a question I wasn't ready for. What's your endgame, Nick? I stared at the wall. Thought about it. Really thought. I don't want her arrested, I said. I don't need her gone, I just want her powerless. Olivia nodded. Then you need the board. Already cracked it once. Cracked, she said. Not broken. She was right. Taking down Karen wasn't about shouting louder. It was about taking away her oxygen, her control over others. So I made another list. This time, of everyone who'd ever been fined, harassed, written up, excluded. I knew names, faces, stories. People too afraid to speak because they thought they were alone. They weren't, and I was going to prove it. The next morning, I started knocking. No speeches, no threats. Just a folder, a photo, a name. You remember this? Because I do, and I'm not the only one. Some doors closed, but some opened. By sundown, I had 6 new statements. Next day, 4 more. Bandit came with me every step, sat on porches, watched doors open, waited, sometimes wagged, sometimes didn't. By the end of the week, I had enough to fill a second folder. And the final name on that list? Terry. The man who stepped down from the board, quiet, regretful. When I knocked, he didn't answer. But later that night, I found a note tucked under my motel door. No signature. Just one sentence. I'll speak. Just tell me when. That was the night I knew. The tide had turned. Not with a bang. With a whisper. And that whisper was spreading. The wind had shifted. It wasn't much, just a breeze carrying the scent of pine instead of Karen's perfume. But I could feel it. The tides were turning. I didn't sleep much that night. I sat in the kitchen with my boots on, sipping coffee that tasted like burned hope, staring at the list I'd made. 8 names, 8 people who'd lost something because of her. A driveway, a dog, a damn front porch. And now, finally, they were ready to talk. You ever realize you weren't the only one she tried to break? That kind of fury, it lights a fire in places you thought were ashes. By mid-morning, I'd heard back from 4 of them. Terry was in. So was the elderly couple from Ridgeview who'd had their fence bulldozed. A woman named Dana called me crying, said she'd kept all the paperwork. I told her, keep it safe, real safe. I went over to O'Reilly's place. He opened the door holding a shotgun, not pointed at me, but he didn't lower it either. Karen came by this morning, he said, told me to watch myself. She threatened you? He looked down at the floor, then back at me. She smiled. That's worse. You know what I said? I said, we're doing this, with or without you. He nodded, and that was it. We had our 5th. That afternoon, I met Terry at a gas station on the edge of town. She slid into my truck like she was still looking over her shoulder. She had cameras, she whispered. Inside the HOA office, she recorded stuff, threats, deals. I didn't know at first, but I saw her copying footage to a thumb drive one night. Do you have any of it? Terry opened her purse and handed me a small metal drive. Not all, but enough. Let me tell you something. If there's one thing that can break a regime, it's their own words. That night, we met in my garage. Not exactly a war room, but it had a whiteboard and coffee. Everyone came quiet, eyes darting, hands clutching manila folders. 8 of us. No leaders, no slogans. Just tired people, done being afraid. We shared our stories. Dana laid out letters with forged signatures. The Ridgeviews brought before and after photos of their bulldozed yard. O'Reilly had audio of a phone call where Karen told him, verbatim, "You can report me, but you'll regret it." We laid it all out like a puzzle, piece by piece, injustice by injustice. And then we planned. It wasn't revenge, it was exposure, real public, undeniable exposure. "You sure we should do this?" someone asked. I looked at every one of them. "You ever been so tired of losing, you stop caring if you win?" They nodded. That was enough. 2 days later, we sent our package. A coordinated drop. 1 copy to the state ethics board, another to the press, and 1 right to Karen's mailbox. No threats, no messages, just the truth, wrapped in an envelope. You'd think that'd be the end, but the real storm was just starting to roll in. Because the day after the truth dropped, Karen vanished. I didn't sleep that night. Not out of fear, I just didn't want to miss the moment. Right before dawn, I sat on the porch with a thermos of coffee and my old dog snoring at my feet. The mailbox across the street still had her name on it. But her house? Empty, no car, no curtains, lights out. It looked defeated. Turns out, When the video hit her inbox and every other inbox in the state, she packed a bag and ran, not just from the HOA, from the county. You ever see someone so sure of themselves one day and vanish the next? Makes you wonder what else they were hiding. That week, things changed fast. The HOA board called an emergency meeting. Only half showed up. Guess why? Turns out most of the men had gotten those emails too, with the same video. Some resigned on the spot. Others blamed each other. One guy cried. And then, something I didn't expect. A letter, official seal, return address, county records department. It said the complaint we filed had triggered a full investigation into the homeowner association's activities over the past 5 years. They found enough irregularities to freeze their finances, audit every document, and dissolve the board pending legal review. All operations suspended. Funny thing is, I wasn't even mad at that point. I was just tired. But the neighbors weren't, and when I stepped outside that afternoon, I saw them. Rakes in hand, trash bags, ladders, paint cans. Even old man Fred with his busted hip was out there scraping mold off the entrance sign. No one told them to do it. They just did. Because when the fear's gone, community steps in. We fixed the fences, repainted the benches, removed the cameras Karen had installed without permission. One by one, all the scars she'd left, covered, repaired, made right. The local news did a piece, not about the scandal, about the rebuild. They interviewed a few of us, asked how it felt to take our neighborhood back. I didn't give them a soundbite. I just said, we finally got our street back. But you know what really stayed with me? A week later, I saw one of the newer families setting up a lemonade stand by the mailboxes. 2 kids, big sign, crooked letters. 50C, fresh lemonade. A lady pulled up in a nice SUV, stepped out, smiled, and paid $5 for a cup. That's when I knew we were okay. The monster was gone. The people remained. And if you're watching this on Karenology, you already know. It's never just about one Karen. It's about what we let them get away with. Not anymore.